Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Episode 42. Shri Mahaswami, the sage with eyes of light, the diary of a seeker of truth, Dr.Serge Demetrian. Dear devotees, now we shall listen to the second section, part 3 of this divine book under the subtitle Around the River Arani. After 1 hour, the door opened. I came nearer and went round the hut by the right side as a sign of respect. Shri Mahaswami, hidden in a half-dark corner, received the prostration of the visitors with a somewhat indifferent look. He showed them out by the movements of the head. The group that had gathered in front of him soon scattered. It was my turn to enter and greet him. As soon as I neared, even before my prostration, I saw his eyes filling with radiance, 2 small bulbs, the color of the summer sky, in the middle of which shot up a lightning burst of ethereal lustre. After the prostration, I knelt with hands in prayer and concentrated on his eyes as much as possible. Then I plunged inside until the white-blue light of his eyes, which had pierced my pupils, filled me with happiness. After some time, I felt I should raise my look and found the eyes of Shri Mahaswami exactly in the same place. I prostrated once again and stood up. Another pradakshina round the hut, and then I retired and took some rest on one side of the rope bed. A few minutes passed and I saw Swamiji come out, apparently for the salute of the sun. Indeed, it was midday. I come near, up 1 meter, and observed how, instead of the short usual gesture with the danda in 3 directions, he began a long line of salutes as if imploring Aditya. He grasped his danda by both hands and looked full of an immense adoration towards the sun that could hardly be seen through the low clouds. I had never seen him praying with such an intensity and devotion. He is like a child, perhaps the 13 years boy who, at the beginning of the century in 1909, had been propelled into the position of religious head of a complicated institution, namely the Shankaracharya Smt of Kanchipuram, and had besieged in a similar piercing gesture the great goddess, the mother of the universe. For almost 5 minutes his face was turned towards me. During this interval, I had the feeling that a sort of mighty triangle was formed. In the first powerful angle stood Shri Mahaswami. In front of me at another angle, as forceful as the first, was the sun. There in the sky, and a third minuscule angle, myself, somewhere far away, wavering and surprised by the importance that was being given to me. Then Shri Mahaswami entered the hut. Thinking that he would not come out, I started walking round the irrigation pump structure. After my second tour, I saw Swamiji coming out for the real salute of the sun. This time, the usual simple gestures were even quicker, the eyes looking down and the face expressionless. Shall I think that the first prayer to the sun had been done for me? I hardly dare think it. I had a rapid lunch with fruits out of my bag, took a short rest, and came back to my observation point under the shed with the fresh grass and the lamps. After 30 minutes, Shri Mahaswami reappeared. He had taken bhiksha, his lunch. His good mood was evident. He smiled at everybody and was giving away blessings that were like purses full of imperial ducats. I hesitated from prostrating in front of him in order to beg material benefices. Would they be useful to me? I thought. I aspire only to be saved from the existence under the law of transmigration. Shall I seek mundane happiness? Moreover, my head was full of pages and pages of the Lagu Yoga Vashishta, which I carry in my luggage, and I allowed myself to be swept by the bewitching hope of reaching Brahman, the Absolute. Before returning to Buga for a second night, I read 2 pages from the Lagu Yoga Vashishta. There, in the immediate proximity of Swamiji, the words entered, literally, through all the pores into the head. At the same time, someone was shouting the content in my both ears. Had I had the benefit of such conditions while preparing the innumerable exams I had to pass during my years of extended studies in 3 countries, I would have been under less strain. It is true that this time the brainwashing was more than justified, as so many of the pages were teeming with pearls of wisdom. Your mind once purified, remember at every moment that you are Brahman. Be in this world as a rock crystal. In the vicinity of different objects, his color might change, but never its nature. Buga, Saturday, 23rd October 1971. The preceding night, on the open veranda of the mart, had been far from restful. It was cold, with wind and rain and the company of certain nocturnal animals. The larger cousins of the mouse moved freely over me. If I tried to scare them away by frightening them with my pocket lamp, they stopped nearby and stared at me with their eyes like 2 small black pinheads and revealed their disappointment with their fine white moustaches. He does not know the customs of the place. This newcomer. They seem to think, here in the holy places, the relations between the numerous species must be different, and man is not feared, but considered for what he should be, the protector of life. To cheer me on, Ishvara granted me between 4:30 and 7 a.m. a meditation so deep that the 2 hours and a half flew as 5 compressed minutes. Pichatur, 7th November 1971. After a few days spent in Bangalore, where I met the young Shankaracharya, I started by bus towards Pichatur, a village where Sri Mahaswami was camping. I was compelled to alight at Pichatur, just at the spot where Sri Mahaswami, standing near the rickshaw, was on the very point of leaving the village. He still waited for me to change my travel clothes, as when I am in front of him, I wear only the traditional dhoti and a shawl. After the prostration and 1 pradakshina, I came nearer in order to contemplate him. He was slightly thin, which made him look like a knife blade. The eyes were diaphanous, grey-brown. He directed straight into my eyes several short looks whose effect I felt immediately as waves of light filled my chest. Then he started his evening ablutions. Apart from a few children, I stood alone in front of him. The ripples of luminous presence he created in my heart grew stronger. They reminded me the several darshan from Karveti Nagar on the steps of the lotus pond. Sri Mahaswami quickly finished his ritual before departure. He seemed satisfied with what he had found in me. I understood immediately that I should follow him to the next camp at Kottapetta, 6 kilometers away. I hastily entrusted 2 hardboard boxes of books and personal affairs to a peasant I had seen for the first time in my life. I placed the rest on a cycle that another unknown villager lent to me, and I fell in behind Swamiji. All the time he made sure that I benefited from a clear line of vision so that I could see at least his feet. Kottapetta, 8th November 1971. Admiring his manner of receiving the public. We arrived at 9:30 p.m. and our host allocated to me an open veranda of a house near the one where Sri Mahaswami was to pass the night. By about 11 p.m., I suddenly woke up. I observed how Sri Mahaswami silently came out of the house, walked unaccompanied in the night, and climbed into the short and narrow box of the rickshaw, barely enlarged by the back lid that had been lowered. He nestled there, apparently in order to sleep. It was about 3 meters away from me. During the night, a noisy crack made us all jump. The assistants and myself ran with pocket and hurricane lamps, fearing some accident. The back lid of the rickshaws box has given away under the weight and lay on the earth. Sri Mahaswami sat on it as on a plate, keeping his danda straight up. He was neither surprised nor worried, the proof that he was not sleeping. We all had been afraid, but by a happy chance he was not hurt, as a blanket and some clothes had cushioned the fall of some 80 centimeters. The rest of the night in his immediate vicinity has been very restful. I even dreamed of a personage, half Sri Mahaswami and half the great goddess Kamakshi, who allowed me to adore him. His eyes, prominent and luminous, had become my own eyes. In the morning, I got up before the light. A few elder women were in a haste to perform the departure ceremony in front of Sri Mahaswami. He was still in the box of the rickshaw, which by this time was well repaired. He ordered a part of the tarpaulin to be heightened so that people could see him, and engaged his assistants in a talk in order to distract them, which made possible my coming nearer. Although he was speaking and even laughed with the onlookers, I could observe how he was working at the same time. By acting in me, he led me to where he wanted without any show. It was enough for him to hold his nose in a characteristic manner or to rub his chin and then stay concentrated for a second, for this subtle work to continue in me. This time, he was working also through my eyes, which progressively became clearer. Now and then, he gazed at me, but for not more than 3 or 4 seconds. When the sun appeared, I could see his eyes. They were a silvery blue, pierced in the middle by a steady lightning. For 1 or 2 minutes, I became his own interior light. Mine, once kindled by his and brought to manifestation by him, seemed equal in quality as his eyes, although comparatively minute in dimension. For a longer moment, it became the original light, that is, Sri Mahaswami. The day unfolded in an atmosphere of well-being. I took the first bath of the day in the water stream next to the village, the Arani river. I am an object of curiosity for the children and for the peasants. All are considerate and take care of me. Towards 10:30 a.m., I felt pulled by an irresistible force towards the center of the village. Once there, I understood why I had to meet Sri Mahaswami, who precisely at that moment came up from the river. He sat for the morning anushtana that preceded the morning service in front of a small but beautiful temple of the goddess. I started contemplating him. As soon as he felt that I was tired, he concealed himself behind the tree under which he took rest. I understood, and without insisting, I left for a walk and performed some pranayama. After coming back, Sri Mahaswami was inclined to show himself once more, although he somewhat avoided my look. From a distance, I was again admiring his manner of receiving the public. He is indefatigable. All are separately received. Everybody tells his name and is blessed as per his capacities of reception. Sometimes he retains those who probably are purer and are able to take advantage of his presence. In his vicinity, adults, children, and elder become more open and calm. In the evening, by 8:30 p.m., I did not enter into the house where he stayed to salute him, although the villagers invited me to do so. I wanted to avoid a skirmish with the more intransigent of his assistants. Sri Mahaswami noticed my attitude and he came out on the gallery. He remained there for 10 minutes under the pretext of listening to an elder woman who seemed not to appreciate the virtues of the silent encounters. Her verbal delivery was inexhaustible. In between, Swamiji was looking at me. I was at some 8 meters from him and the electric bulbs were strong enough to see him clearly. He appeared concentrated and lean, of the color of a dark cloud. His eyeballs seemed to me two deep wells where one could guess there were whirlwinds of grey-black dust. His entire body finely vibrated and I observed small lateral movements of the head. He had the evident intention to follow my own eyes that were not able to place themselves straight along the center of his pupils. I saw a yellow lightning gush for 1 or 2 seconds from his right eye, then it was his left eye that kindled slowly, taking on for a while a blue light color. All the time he stood in the gallery, I felt a continuous wave of blessing breaking over me. Then Sri Mahaswami slowly came down to the rickshaw in order to sleep outside. An assistant started reading with a loud voice a book in Tamil. From time to time, Swamiji was raising questions with a clear and beautiful voice, although it was not the real one. I retired to my open veranda and before going to sleep, I profoundly meditated on him there at a few meters near him. By his grace, he came to me through the lightings of his 3 eyes and pressed them on my own eyes until mine were entirely replaced by his ones. I felt invaded by an immense blessing. Devotees, we shall continue to listen to Around the River Arani in the coming episode, bowing at the holy feet of the Gurus. Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara.